Hello and welcome into the conversation. It's your host, Adrienne Lawrence, and I have some great guests for you today with just some insightful information. You're gonna be excited to listen. So first up, we are talking to a tech guru who led the launch of Amazon Prime. He's also served as the chief digital officer for the Washington Post and is now spearheading a science-backed virtual reality platform called Florio. Welcome in Vijay Ravindran. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Vijay, let's talk about Florio. Your company showcases some new age technology that's really targeting on helping teach social communication and life skills for people on the autism spectrum. So what makes Florio just cutting edge?
Well, we use virtual reality as a medium for teaching social skills. We're able to create environments that take kids to places they can't go, especially today. And we're able to create an environment they can practice skills over and over again to reach the length they want to get to.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like it can be extremely beneficial. And I know we kind of already touched upon the fact that this software or this technology is largely geared toward children on the autism spectrum. And what really kind of, I guess, made you want to create this technology?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Florio is inspired by my son, who is on the autism spectrum. And the idea for the company came from his first experience using the technology. From there, we started working with clinical experts, kept getting positive feedback. And once we met with families and saw what a great need was to find new technologies and skills to be able to teach, we were off and running, and we've been able to work with great partners to build a really fantastic system today.
That's fantastic. It sounds like your son is already changing the game, and I can dig that. And something that may seem very helpful with this technology, it seems in kind of the interaction area when it comes to policing. I see that researchers at Drexel University at their Autism Institute, that they found recently that at least 20% of individuals on the autism spectrum have been stopped or questioned by police by the age of 21, and at least 5% have been arrested. So what makes police encounters so dangerous for individuals on the autism spectrum?
Yeah, this is a huge concern area and has been for years. Go all the way back to when we started the company in 2016, when there was a really terrible incident involving an African-American therapist who was helping an adult with autism and was shot by the police. Policing is difficult for kids with special needs because they don't necessarily respond to the same cues. Difficult enough to think of kids knowing and doing exactly the right things in that moment, knowing how challenging these interactions with police can be. I'm particularly haunted by something a therapist that we work with told us, who works in inner city Washington, DC. She said, I have kids who are 12, they look 18 to the police, and they have the developmental age of 6. And so when they're on the streets, on the sidewalks, trying to use the metro, if they have an encounter with law enforcement, I don't know how that's gonna go.
And it's a very scary thing. I myself am on the autism spectrum, and when I do encounter police, I have to alert them in advance that I can't take multiple commands at once, that we have to essentially do things one at a time, because not only is it nerve-wracking, but I cannot, my working memory is not very strong. So thank you for creating this. Especially since also we've seen recently there have been several incidents where police have shot individuals on the autism spectrum, including a 13-year-old boy in Salt Lake City. So how does Florio really change the game when it comes to individuals on the autism spectrum and interacting with police?
Yeah, so for the last 3.5 years, we've been working with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia on what is really groundbreaking research. We initially worked with the police in the Washington, D.C. area in Montgomery County, Maryland, to understand the types of dialogue police officers would engage in when they saw someone and wanted to question them, knowing that officers might be prone to using colloquialisms or expressions that are difficult to parse if you're on the autism spectrum and might take things more literally. And so from there, we built scenes that really replicated the stress of the situation of an encounter. So the city with distractions, with people gawking, with cars passing by, with honking, and then these officers are talking to you. They might be on the face of it asking what seems like simple questions, but when you're in that moment with that glare, someone glowering at you, it becomes very stressful and difficult, something that if you can practice, you can get better at. What we're able to do is work with researchers to come up with some great study structure where we worked with individuals on the spectrum who were 12 and above. They went through the interventions, gave us feedback. We were able to get a large amount of funding from NIH to build on that. And then we worked closely with the Philadelphia Police Department to create an intervention where they were interviewing the subjects at the end to understand the level of improvement we could gain. And so we're happy to report that what we've been able to teach is successful. The software is very sophisticated. It is able to not only create the environment that you would have these encounters, but the police officers themselves get agitated, become friendly based on the reactions of the individuals in the VR environment. And the adults that are working with them can also be able to tune the scenes to be able to be more or less challenging based on how they perceive this person might encounter in the real world.
That is really fabulous, and I love to hear it. Especially, I can relate to kind of this colloquialisms and abstract terms because those are not my jam, and I have the biggest struggles and difficulties with them. So I like that you all are exploring this. And also, the fact that you are working on the end of individuals who are on the spectrum, but also I know that there is a big push to change policing, in terms of how individuals interact with the members of the public, because everyone is different. So someone may not be giving you eye contact or may seem extremely nervous or out of place, and how that shouldn't necessarily be associated with criminality. And so Florio seems to definitely do the changes on the civilians end, but what about changing on the policing end? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is something we hear often. I think from our perspective, we're trying to help families who have legitimate concerns about how the real world works right now. Obviously, there's many aspects of the real world that are not fair and should be more accommodating than they are today. We've been fortunate to work with police departments who are thinking progressively about at least their responsibility. And we're happy that we actually received additional grant money from NIH to actually start building empathy training as well run on this platform. So one of our add-on projects that we're doing with Children's Hospital Philadelphia is going to be centered around building empathy training so that officers can potentially go through and recognize when they're encountering someone that is neurodiverse and needs accommodations and how those interactions work and how they need to be patient and not jump to this conclusion they might be doing today.
That add-on sounds really fantastic. And so in terms of the future, is there anything else that you're going to be adding on to Florio or that you'd like to see the company go in a particular direction?
Yeah, we're adding new scenes every month. We just released a new scene on why wear a mask during COVID-19, where we simulate how droplet out of your nose and mouth and how you can make things a lot safer if you and those around you wear masks. This is again an area where sometimes being more literal about the nasal droplets and how those float in the air can actually really punctuate the point as to why to wear the mask if someone's really asking a lot of questions about trying to understand what's happening, especially with germs, which you see. We're also developing content for people with ADHD and trying to help in the different cognitive areas around attention and impulse control and working memory, visual spatial skills that are challenging not only for people with an ADHD diagnosis, but commonly overlapping with those on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's one of my comorbidities, so that's great. And I'm also wondering, how accessible will this be to the majority of society?
Yeah, great question. One of the things we're proud of is that we're now an approved treatment in Maryland for Medicaid, and we have approval as well in DC. So we Medicaid is a really important program that reaches the most vulnerable and important kids to reach with technology like this. So we've been focused on talking to state Medicaid programs, as well as going through public special education programs to reach kids. We use very inexpensive technology today. Our virtual reality experience is powered by a smartphone, an iPhone 7 or above is compatible. We use headsets that hold the phone that are $15, and then the virtual reality environment is built and paired with an iPad. And so we think this technology can be accessible to everyone over time, and then hopefully working with programs like Medicaid and also create reimbursement opportunities so that it's accessible no matter what your economic level.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vijay. And can you tell everyone where they can find you and find out more about Florio?
Yeah, if interested to go to floriotech.com, FLOREOTECH. And we have sections there for both families who are looking to find out more for themselves in the home, as well as to introduce their school districts or clinics that they go to for therapy, as this potentially could be something they're using. And one thing we didn't mention, but the system also works over distance learning. So you can have a child wear a headset and have a specialist over internet be able to use the system.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.